Okay, so today our focus is going to be on spreadsheets. I expected that would meet physically, but I hope we all know what's going on. That instead of losing out on the time, that's why I suggested at least we meet online to not to miss out a lot. Um, so we are going to go through spreadsheets. We had a brief introduction to spreadsheets when we were talking about the different kinds of user applications. Okay, in brief, spreadsheets are usually computer applications that we use to organize, we use this to calculate, we use them to analyze and present data in a tabular form made up of rows and columns. We usually use these for common tasks such as budgeting, record keeping, data analysis, reporting. Most of your teachers, you can use this for grading. Okay, you can use this for creating timetables. Okay, you can use this for grading, timetabling, scheduling, etc. Those are spreadsheets. And the examples of softwares we can usually have here. Okay, I was confirming if we are recording. The main softwares we can have here, the examples are Microsoft Excel, which is the most common most of us have worked with, Google Sheets, which you installed on your phones, LibreCalc, Apple Numbers. These are some of those that we can use. Okay. Now I believe at least some of us have worked with Excel. Maybe some of us Google Sheet could be new to us, but the good thing we installed it as well. So in this class, since many of us have both, we have both Excel. Most of us have the smartphones, whereas I think few of us have the computers. Those who have computers, you can follow along with the Excel. Those having Google Sheets, you may need to try this after the class, because if you're using your phone to do the to if it's your phone you're using to attend the class, it may be again a little hard to use the Google Sheets at the same time. But after the class, at least you try out. Now, if I shared a summary of Google Apps. I shared the notes or the module. You can always go check there and see the different interfaces of Google Sheets. But Google Sheets are not once you can work with Excel, you can easily work with Google Sheets. The interfaces don't differ that much. I hope you're together. Meanwhile, let's invite the rest to join. Okay, so if you have Excel, you can access your Google Sheets. If you have if you have Microsoft Excel, you can do all the tasks you could do with a spreadsheet. If you have Google Sheets, you can as well be able to execute these tasks. Okay. Okay. What are the basic components of spreadsheets? Now, a spreadsheet will have what we call a workbook. And you're saying a workbook is an entire file in a spreadsheet. Now, when we talked about word processors, in word processors, a single file was called a a document, and our document could have pages. Excuse me. Now in spreadsheets, we'll be working with workbooks, and the workbook will have worksheets. So where in word processors we work with documents, and documents have pages, in spreadsheets we work with workbooks, and workbooks have worksheets. I hope we are still together. Okay. Now wherever you feel you're lost somewhere, feel free to raise your hand, or you can drop a message in the message area. Okay. So feel free to drop a message in the message area. So we are saying we have a workbook, which is a single file in a spreadsheet. Then our file will have worksheets. Our workbook will have worksheets. And we are saying a worksheet is a single page within our workbook. Right? Now, we are saying that worksheets will have cells, and cells are usually individual boxes where data is entered. Now, we are going to look at cells. We'll notice that cells are usually an intersection of a row and a column. That brings us to what the rows are and what the columns are. The rows are usually the horizontal lines, okay, of the cells. The columns are usually the vertical lines of the cells. Our rows will be labeled 1, 2, 3, and so on. Our columns will be labeled ABC. And we see that the intersection of a row and a column, okay, if I have my columns and I have my rows, this intersection right here is what we are calling a cell. We are going to get to that. Now that cell will have an address, and that address is usually labeled by the row, the column identifier, which are usually the letters, and the row identifier. We are going to get to that practically, and you'll be able to understand it better. We have texts. This is the type of data we can enter in spreadsheets. We can enter text. This could be names, this could be titles or description. We can enter numbers or values. So let's say scores, prices, quantities. It could be marks, it could be prices, etc. We can have formulas. These are usually mathematical expressions we can use to compute stuff. For example, if I want to add values in different cells, let's say cell A1 and cell B1, right? That would be a formula right there. Then we can have functions. Functions are usually built-in formulas in spreadsheets. Okay? For example, if I want to add something, I can use the sum function. If I want to get the average, I can use the average function. If I want to count items, I can use the count function. Appear says in the message area, you can't see my screen. Is it only Appear? Are there other people can see the screen? Or are there people who are seeing the screen? Are you seeing my screen, members? Yeah, so Appear, the issue could be your network. Eh? Kamwak Abdallah, I see your hand up. You could tell us. Abdallah, I see your hand up.
Huh?
Okay, I was seeing Abdallah's hand up. It has gone down. So yes, we have looked at the basic components of a spreadsheet, the workbook, the worksheet, the cells, the rows, the columns, the cell address. We have looked at the data we can enter, some kinds of data, some of the types of data we can enter. Text, numbers, we can work with formulas, we can work with functions. Okay. Now, what are some of the uses of these spreadsheets? Excuse me. What are some of the uses of these spreadsheets? Now, we can use these in budgeting and accounting. We can use spreadsheets to record student marks and automatically grade them. And this will be our case here. We shall have an example where we do this. We can use spreadsheets to track business records and sales tracking. We can use these for data analysis and reporting. We can use these to create charts and graphs and present data in an attractive manner. This brings us to the interface of a spreadsheet software. And in this case, we are looking at Excel. This is how my Excel window will look like. Once I open up Excel, by now, for those who don't know how we access these, I said, in case you're looking up any program and you don't know how to access it, hit the Windows button or the Start button and type the name of that program. So if it's Excel, I'll type the Excel, and it will show. If I have that program installed, it will show. So since I have Excel installed, it shows. And on the side here, it will show me some Excel files I recently worked with. So I just go ahead, I click on the program, and it will open up. Now this is the interface we'll have, and it's the same interface I have here in the document. If you have noticed, most of these Microsoft Office softwares, the home interface or the landing page doesn't differ much. Be it Microsoft Word, be it PowerPoint, the interface doesn't differ much. For example, we always have the home section. We always have the home. Okay, this is the home. You'll have the new area, and you'll have the open. Under the new, that's where we create new files. That's where we can be able to find templates. We can work with templates in Microsoft Excel as well. We talked about these in Microsoft Word. We can work with those templates as well. And down here, if my account is linked to, if I have linked my program to a particular Microsoft account, I can get those details here. And we can also work with these options here. These options help us. Okay. Mwesuga says I zoom in. I think I've tried to zoom in, and we are seeing better now. So once you open this Excel, we'll have the home area. Once we tap that, we can see the recently used files. If I'm to create a new file, I'll tap on the new tab, and I'll be able to see a blank workbook. That is if I'm totally going to start from scratch. Or I can use templates. Okay, we can have different kinds of templates. Let's say I'm a business. I want templates that relate to business. I can go to that. Personal templates. Let's say I want to create a personal budget, etc. Maybe I want to create a calendar. All those templates are there. So if I'm interested in templates, I can look these up. If you have a computer, it will be good that you open up your Excel as well. For those of us who don't have computer, I request that we follow. Then we shall try some of these after the class in Google Sheets. I hope that's okay. So when I get to the home, this is what I'm able to see. Blank workbook. Please, if you're not seeing the screen, the issue could be your network. Feel free to rejoin the meeting. Okay. So we're saying we move from the home tab, we go to the new tab. Under the new tab, we are saying one of the main things we'll always see is the blank workbook. Then below the blank workbook, we can see the different templates we can use. Okay. For example, if I want to see the templates under the personal category, I'll click on the personal category. As long as I have an internet connection, these templates are going to load up. Okay. Now I think our internet isn't so good. Those who have joined late, the class is being recorded. And I hope by now I shared yesterday. I shared the YouTube where these videos are uploaded. So after the class, feel free to go check and follow up. Okay. So if our internet was good, I would have seen some templates here, but the internet, oh no, we are still having challenges with the internet. So these templates might not load fully. I'm going to open up a blank workbook. I'm going to open up a blank. Okay, these templates have come. Under the new, I hope you see the templates we can have. Okay. Am I someone who gives out loans? There's a loan calculator. Let's say I want to see the templates under personal. Okay. Let me tap on personal. We see the templates we have under there, under the personal category. Okay, let's give this some time as it loads up. Please, those joining, don't forget to mute. Don't forget to mute. Don't forget to mute. Hey, the internet is still. Please, in your free time, try and look up these templates. There are so many, and they're very helpful. You may not have to design each workbook from scratch. For example, there's a home inventory here. In case I want to keep an inventory of what I have in my home, I can have that. Now these are some of the templates that I have been used before on my computer. That's why they are showing here. But I'm saying if you want extra templates, feel free to search for them. Feel free to click on the categories here and you'll be able to get them. We are going to use a blank workbook. A blank workbook. So I open that up. Now this is the interface of our Microsoft Excel. Okay, this is the interface. You notice we have rows and columns that create the tables. Our columns stretch out from A, are labeled by letters, whereas our rows are labeled by numbers. We are saying an intersection. Okay, let me zoom in a bit. Okay, so A is a row, 1 is a column. You notice at the moment I'm at the home tab. Okay, just like in Microsoft Word, we had different tabs in our menu. We had the insert, etc. So for Excel, we have the home tab, we have the insert, we have the draw tab, page layout, formulas, etc. but we are starting with the home tab. Now always ensure that you are in the home tab. Now, para Coach Ronald, I see your question. How do you write a title in Excel? We are getting there. We are still going through the basics of the interface. Hope that's okay. Okay. Now before we start working with inserting stuff, let's look at some of the components of this program. Some of them things we should know in this program. There is the file menu or the file tab. This is where we work with our files. Okay, let's say you want to save a file, you want to open a file, you always use the file tab. The home tab, that's where we mostly operate. It has the basic operations we can always work with. You want to copy and paste. I hope we are used to this menu now. The text formatting, I can change the text type or the font type. I can make my characters bold. I can italicize, I can underline, changing colors, etc. That's the tab where we find those menus. Then on top here, we have what we call the quick access bar. We'll see what it does. We can usually put quick tasks or quick operations with one there, and we're going to see what we have there. From here, spanning all the way where you see A, B, C, D up to S, that's what we are calling the column bar. It has the identifiers or the labels for our columns A, B, C, D, etc. On top here, okay, that's where we have what we call the title bar. The title bar. Now, we said an intersection of a row and a column is what we call a cell. Okay, and this particular one is an active cell. An active cell is a cell that I've selected, and it will usually be highlighted by green borders, as you see here. Okay, and now if I open up the actual Excel, this is just an image I'm using to demonstrate, but if I open up the actual Excel, I hope you see, once I click into a cell, whenever we say click, that's a left click. Once I click, I've selected a cell and it is an active cell. Okay, now whenever I click on a cell, you'd notice right here the identifier or the address of the cell will show up. So whenever you click on a cell, its identifier shows up. Currently, this is the active cell. It's in column 1, row 1, and that's why it shows that the address is A1. Our rows are usually in what we call the row bar. We have a formula bar where we should always be seeing our formulas. This is the formula bar. We have a ribbon. Whenever we click on a tab, let's say the home tab, it opens up what we call the home ribbon. That has the different tasks we can always execute in that particular ribbon. Whenever we see this arrow, this small arrow on any menu, it means there are extra operations we can execute under there, and we are calling that the dialog box launcher. In other words, we can have more details. This arrow here is what we call the dialog box launcher. When we click on it, we are able to get extra operations. Okay. Okay. Members, someone says my voice is not clear. Is it for everyone, or are you able to hear me clearly? Okay, Nanchi, I think the issue could be your network. Okay, so actually I'll share these and you'll be able to see these different things I'm talking about. At the bottom here, we can have the zoom control where I can zoom in and out in my sheet. Okay, down here I'll have the current sheet I'm working with, and I can always add a sheet or what we call a worksheet, right? Now, a worksheet, we said, or what we can plainly call a sheet, is like a page in a workbook. Members, remember to mute, remember to mute, remember to mute. Remember to mute such that we can communicate clearly. Okay? Meanwhile, let's invite the rest to join. Okay. So those are some of the parts of a spreadsheet interface. Okay, now here is just another pictorial demonstration of what happens when I tap on the options menu. Now, on the options menu, that's where I can have some default settings in my Excel. Once I tap options, I'm able to see things like the theme. I can change the language. Let's say I want my Excel to operate in Kiswahili. I can change that. Let's just try that here. Okay, once I go to file and I click on options, these are the options I'm talking about. I can change the language. Okay, you notice for my case here, the default is English, but the second option is Kiswahili. But I can add a language. I can click on add language, and once I click there, I can see if let's say I think you have Sudani people in this class and you understand Arabic more, you can choose Arabic here. Once you click it, you say install and it will be installed. Oh, sorry, those who can't see, you can always leave the meeting and rejoin. It may work. I can go to save options. Now the save options is important. You notice most of us who use desktops, we said if you haven't saved your work and power goes off, you'll lose it. But I can set my file to save automatically under the save options. Once you go to options, go to save, and you notice one of the options you have there is save auto recovery information every, and I can set here. I can say I want to save this after, by default it was 10, but I can say after every 2 minutes. Okay, with that, after every 2 minutes, my file will save automatically, such that even though power goes off, I can access what I was working with every 2 minutes. I hope we get that. Okay, and I can choose where I want this to be saved. Okay, I can say this will be saved in, the default path is right here, but I can change that if I want. So these are some of the things you can do. You can change the colors of how your Excel appears. I'll beg that you get time and explore this. If you have a query, feel free to drop a message in the message area. Excuse me. Okay, so we come back to our interface right here. We come back to our interface right here. This is the spreadsheet interface. I've said you have rows and columns, and where they intersect, that's what we call a cell. For example, if I have a cell, this cell right here, if I have this cell, let's say I click this cell right here, it's an intersection of column D and row 3, okay, making its address D3. We said the address of a cell is labeled by the row identifier and the column identifier. The class is recorded. Bex Honest says, I hope the lecture will be recorded. The lecture is recorded. And I hope by now you should be able to access these lectures via the YouTube channel I shared. These videos are there. Okay, so that's the oh, like someone says the network is partially clear. So we are going to try and insert some data here. Okay, we are going to try and create a simple grade calculator. We are going to insert some records here. To write in a cell, I just click in that cell. Okay, for example, if I want to work with this, I click on the first cell. You notice once I tap in there, the address shows here. Okay, so I'm going to say name. We just want to capture some students' record, some marks. Let's say there's coursework, coursework, coursework. Let's say there was also final exam mark. I'll call that final exam mark. Let's say there was a total as well, total mark. Total mark. We could also want to have a grade. Okay, so we have the name of the student, the coursework, the final exam, the total mark, and the grade. Now you notice, before we start even entering records here, you notice some of the data inserted in a cell can't fit in that cell. In other words, it's cut off. For example, you see coursework doesn't fully show. The label doesn't fully show. How do I adjust that? I can always move my cursor. I hope you notice what happens when I move my cursor to the intersection of column B and column C. The appearance changes. Do you see the difference? Once I move it to the intersection, it changes. Once my cursor gets there, I double click and automatically it will fit. I can always do the same for this other. Move to the intersection of the two columns. Okay, I want final exam to fit. I move right there. I double click on the intersection and it fits. That's one quick way. The other way would be to left click or click on the border and I drag out. I click, I don't release, then I drag out. So there are two options. You can either double click on the intersection or you click and drag out. I hope we are together on that. Okay, let me insert some data here. Okay, so let's say we have Okoth. Let's say we have Daniel. Let's say we have Rachel. Let's say we have Mark, Leod. Let's say we have Moses. And maybe we also have Evans. So you have entered the names Okay, someone says and Viola. Okay, let me put Viola. So we have those students. Now we want this our coursework to be out of 50. Actually, let me label that. Let me say out of 50. Okay, final mark also out of 50. We want our total to be out of 100. We say to have this fit properly, I double click on the intersection. That's the quick way. Okay, please remember to mute. Remember to mute. Nakagolo Justin, your hand is up. Please speak to us. Justin, was that accidental? Please, if you have a computer, you can follow along. For those of us who don't, oh, in the group, someone says their personal data is not stable. As an IT technician, I request for your guidance. Now, the issue could be your network, but generally, the network is not so stable. You could try and change the service provider. This is Emmanuel Okia. If you have, let's say, Airtel, you can try and get data from MTN. Though as far as I know, Google Meet is at least more stable. It's not among the applications that are not yet that are blocked. Google Meet is a little stable. The issue could be just your network where you are. You could try and change the service provider. Maybe if you're having Airtel, you try and get data from MTN and you see the difference. Or you could try and change the location. Okay. Okay, let me check the message area here. Okay, someone says Leica is very stable in their village. How can I extend those columns? Now, for the phone, it's the same technique. Click on the intersection, don't release and drag out. Okay? Don't release and drag out. It will work out if you're using a smartphone. Let me try and open here as well. Let me try and open here as well. Okay, if you're using a phone, once you tap on a cell, there's an arrow. There is if you're using a phone, and you select a row or a column, something like this will appear. Something like this. Maybe something like this. I don't know if you see it. Let me try and share it in the group. Those trying to follow on phones. Let me try and share in the group. Okay, if you select a column or something like that will appear. Okay, I'm sharing in the group. It's sorry, the social media networks are a little blocked out, but let me share the image. Those trying to use Google Sheets, the image is loading. I've shared the image in the group. You can try and compare. We can use that. Okay, so let's get back here. We have entered the names. Now let's enter the grades. Let's say Daniel got Okoth got 30 out of 50, and maybe in the final got 23 out of 50. Daniel gets 45 out of 50. He gets, let's say, 43. We are just, okay, Rachel, maybe Rachel gets 25. And she also gets 28 in the final. McLeod gets 40 and gets 30 in the final. Moses gets 10 in the coursework, and in the final he gets 5. Okay, this one gets 30, gets 31 here. Isabella gets 44, and in the final they get, let's say, 35. Okay, so we have captured some. Now, Sir Isabelle says, how can I access Excel on my phone? I said Excel is an app that we majorly use on the computer, though you can have a phone version. You can download this from your Play Store, but these are paid for apps. The Microsoft apps like Google, like Excel, like Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, these are paid for. So you may need to pay for it. That's why I gave you an option of Google Sheets, which is free. I gave you the links to install this, and I believe you installed. Now, someone in the group says they have just joined. Please, you can follow along because you have been here for about an hour. So follow along. The recordings will be shared. Actually, I'm going to share this immediately after the class. Okay? Are we together? Okay, just a minute. Let me. Just a minute, please. Let me get back. Just a minute. Let me. Okay, let's get back here. Sorry for the inconvenience. Okay, so here we are. We have captured the names. We have captured some marks. Now we are going to compute this. We said, well, as we compute, there are two ways we can compute in here. There are two ways we can compute in here. Let me open this up. Let me just talk about this. We said we can use formulas, and we can also use functions. For someone who was here from the start of the class, we said that formulas are usually mathematical expressions we create. For example, if I want to add if I want to get Okothi's final mark, I'll add his coursework and his final exam mark. That's the formula. If I'm to use a function, we said functions are built-in formulas in spreadsheets. Okay. For example, if I was to use a function for this, I would say sum. Sum is a function which we use to add up things or units in spreadsheets. I would say sum. Then in brackets, I'll have the coursework and the final exam. I hope we get the difference between a formula and a function. A function is a formula, but it's already inbuilt in Excel. I don't have to write it from scratch. Are we together? For a formula, I create it. For example, if we want to add the coursework here, if we want to add the coursework here, I'll say, if you want to add the total marks for Okoth, I'll say whatever is in cell. What's the address for Okoth what's the address of the cell? If someone is following, I want you to help me identify the address for the cell where we have Okoth's coursework.
It's B2.
Okay, so we have the coursework is in B2. And where do we have the final exam? Mark C2. So if we are to use a formula, Okoth's total mark will be equal to the coursework plus the final exam mark. But the coursework and the final exam, the coursework is in B2 plus
C2.
So that will be the formula to generate for us Okoth's final or total mark. If we're to use a function to generate Okoth's final total marks, then our function, the function we'd use will be the sum. We write sum, then in the sum we say we want to add the coursework which is in B2, comma, C. So these two will give us the same thing. This right here is a formula, and this right here is a function. Miriam Nachigude says the display is off. Miriam says the display is off. You could try rejoining. The issue could be the network. Okay, so you have gotten the difference between a function and a formula. Now, for us to start any computation in a spreadsheet, we always start with an equal sign. So if I want to get the total mark, I'll say equal sign. I click on the cell that has the first unit I want to have. Okay, so we start with the equal sign for any calculation. Equal sign, we click on the cell that has the Okoth's coursework. You notice once I click on it, the cell shows right here. Then I'll say plus. We have the addition sign on the computer. It should be in your number pad or in your number area. Plus the final exam mark is in right here. So I click there and you notice I have B2 plus C2. And if I check here in my formula bar, I have the formula there, right? Once I have these, I just press enter and I have the total. If I double click there, I can see the formula I used, right? Let's try and work with a function to do the same. We said for any computation, use the equal sign. Now we say these functions are inbuilt. These functions are inbuilt. So I just have to write out my function. If it is sum, I'll write sum. And if I write sum in the cell I want to have the sum, I get a number of suggestions of functions that have sum in them. But the main one we want is just the sum. So I click on that. It's inserted in my cell. I click on we are calculating Daniel's total mark we are using the sum function. I click on the first cell. Okay. I click on the first cell. I put a comma. This time we are not using the addition sign because the function is going to do that for us. All we are doing is capturing the units we want to add. I click on the first cell, comma, I click on the next cell. Okay, let me redo that for someone who may not have gotten it. For any computations or calculations, we start with the equal sign. If I want the sum function, I write it out, and the suggestion of the functions I could use that have sum in them is shown here. So I click on sum. I click on the first unit I want to be added, which is Daniel's coursework, comma, it should be a comma. I click on the next unit, which is Daniel's final exam. The two are selected, then I press enter, and I'll have my sum. I hope we are trying to follow. Okay, now someone, Audera Anthony says, what if the cells are like 4? We are coming to that, Audera. What if the cells are like 4? How do I do that? And we are going to see that's where the functions come in very helpfully. What if I have so many cells? How do I do that? We are going to come to that, and it's the next thing we are handling. So now we have tried to add this. Let's take a case where we have about 1,000 students. Okay. In our case, how many students do we have here? This is around yes, Mwesigwa Sarah, we are getting to that. Mwesigwa Sarah says, is there a shortcut, like after getting the answer for the first person? Yes, there's a shortcut, and it's what we are moving to. That's what I'm saying. What if we have 7 students only? What if you had like 1,000 students? Don't you think it would be very tedious to go on adding for each and every one individually? It would be very tedious. So what do I do? Here is a shortcut I can use if I have many items or many people or many things I have to compute. Once I've used my formula, at least in one cell, and I'm sure it's right, my formula or my function, I'll move. I want you to be very keen on this, and I want you to observe my cursor. The cell in which I had my calculation, excuse me, sorry. You notice the cell that I've selected, which has my right formula, in the corner right here, it has a dot or a small square. Let me zoom in more so that we are able to see this. Do you see that? In the corner there is a small, I don't know if you're able to see it on your end. I'm trying to zoom in more. This small dot in the corner or small square, are we able to see it? I've selected the cell that has 88, right? but in the bottom left corner, there's a small dot. If I double click on that dot, I want you to see what happens. If I double click on that dot,
Yes, sir.
if, if I double click on that dot, automatically the rest of the cells, the units will be calculated automatically. Are we seeing that? I'm redoing this. I can either double click on that small dot. When I have 10,000 items that are to be calculated, as long as they follow the same formula, the calculations will be executed. Mwesigu, I hope you've been answered.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's a shortcut. I don't have to worry that I have 1,000 people. How am I going to add for each and everyone? You just have the perfect calculation for one person. You have the right formula, then automatically the rest will be computed. Now I come back to, it was, I come to Aldera Anthony. Aldera Anthony said, what if I have like 4 cells to add? How do I do that? We are going to take a case where we add the total mark. We are going to say total marks, students, class total marks, class, let's say class total mark. For someone who is following, what do you think will be the formula to compute the class total marks? We want to get the total marks for all the students. You can share in the message area. We want to add Okoth's total mark to Daniel's all the way to Viola. What do you think will be our formula? You can share in the message area. Okay, Abdallah, you have your hand up. You can speak to us.
I think you can still click on the bottom dot.
No. Remember, we don't have we see what we have here is the total mark per student, right? But we want the total marks for all our students. In others, we want to add all of this. We want to add all of that into one unit. Does someone have an idea?
It is D1 plus
Okay.
B2
Okay. Let
plus
me write that down. So our let me write that class total mark. You're saying it is
B1
D1
plus, I need to see like
D2
plus D3
up
plus
to,
D4.
it goes all the way up to D8.
Yes.
So that is if I'm to use a formula, D2 plus D3, D4, D6 plus D7 up to. Now, assuming this is where formulas become a problem. This is where formulas become a problem. And this is where a function will become helpful. Now, this is a formula. Okay? But if I'm to use a function, I'll just say sum of D1, I'll have semicolons, D8. Now, I want us to understand the difference. I'm going to write 2 expressions here that mean something different, and we should never mix them up. Okay? Now, these two, this This right here is a formula. Whereas this right here is a, but they do the same thing. You notice that the function is, oh, D5 should be there. Thank you, Nantume. D5 should be there. Now, what the sum does, the sum function, as long as I put these two semicolons, these are not semicolons, these are full colons, the function is going to add everything in between D1 to D8. So I don't have to write out everything individually. But there's a difference between these two, and I want us to note this. If I say sum D1, comma, D8, what's going to happen? I'm only adding D1 and D8. But if I put colons, it means I'm adding anything in between D1 to D8. Are we together? It's very important that we understand this, members.
I think you have network still the problem.
So if I want to work with a range, let's say I'm adding units that we have from D1 to around D100, then if I'm to use the sum function, I'll say D1 full colons D. This is a range. Whereas if I'm adding only, let's say, 4 units in that range, let's say if I say sum D1, then comma, maybe D4, then comma, D5. Here I'm only adding these individual units, not a range. So if I'm working with a range, I use the colons. If I'm working with only individual units and not a colon and not a range, I use commas to separate my units. I hope that's understood. So to get my class total mark, if I'm using the sum function, I'll say equals sum. I tap on the sum. Then my first, this is D2, comma. If I say comma, I'm adding the individual units, but I want the range D2 up to D8. D8, I close. In that case, I'm adding a whole range. Then I press enter. And here are my total. I'm adding everything here. The other thing we could do is the average total mark. Average total mark. What do you think the average total mark would be? What's usually the formula for average? Average is usually equal to total sum of items,
by the number of items.
the number of the items. So if I want to have the total average mark of my students here, it means I'll add all their marks, divide by how many students? Divide by 7 students. That means if I'm to use a formula, I'll say the average will be D1 plus D7 plus D8, or divide by how many? Actually, this we should start from D2, or divide by 7. This is the formula for our average. You notice it's a little much. Assuming you have 1,000 students, will it be really logical? It will be very tedious. So in that case, I can use the average function. For the average function, I'll just say equals average, and in bracket I have D2 to D8. And that will give me my average. As simple as that. Do you see how functions make our work easier? Let's try that. The average mark, we are going to say equals. Now to have the average function, we'll say average. You notice as soon as I write AVG, the average function shows up here. I click on it, then the cells I'm adding are D2 up to D8, the cells for which I'm getting the average. And once I have enter, I get my average mark. Are we together? Okay, let me check. Okay, I was checking on our recording. So there are so many functions. We have looked at the sum function, we have looked at the average. There are so many functions. Okay, and before the week ends, I'll give you a task that that will engage you in using some of these functions. Okay, we got to that because we were I was trying to answer who was this? This was someone had asked if you have several units. Now the next thing I want us to try to do is how we automatically compute the grade. Okay? We want our spreadsheet to automatically assign our students grades. How can I do that? How can we do that? Now we all know that to have grades, to assign grades, there's usually what we call a grading. There's what we call a grading scale, right? You're going to create and come up with our simple grading scale here, and it's what we'll use to assign our students grades automatically. We can say if someone gets between 100 and 80, let's say that person has gotten an A. Okay, let's say for our case, our A, for someone to have an A, they should get between 100 to between 80 and 100. For someone to have a B, they should get let's say between 60 to 79. Okay, let me adjust this a bit such that we are together. So you're saying here someone should get from 80 to 100. Someone to get a C, let's assume someone should get from 50 to 59, and anything below that this is just our, it's not it's just a scale we are trying to come up with. This is not what the university uses. For someone to get an F, they should get from 49 to 0. That's our scale. We are going to use this scale to create a function, or to write a function that will automatically, or a statement that will automatically generate these grades for us. Now when we are writing these statements, we use what we call the if function. A good example is here. We can say that for the first condition, if my total mark is between 100 to, if my total mark is between 100 to 80, then assign this person an A. Then the next condition will be, if someone's total mark is between 79 to 60, then give this person a, automatically assign this person a B. Then the next condition was, if someone's total mark is between 59 and 50, this person should be given a C. And the last condition was, if someone's total mark is between 49 to 0, then this person should get an F. I hope we get the logic here. We're using the scale to come up. Remember, we said our scale was for someone to have an A, they should have between 80 to 100. If someone is to get a B, they should have between 79 to 60. For someone to have a C, they should be between 59 to, and for someone to have an F, we don't have a D in our case, they should have from 49 to, and we are saying the statements that are going to automatically generate that for us, we are going to use the if function to come up with if condition statements. Okay, so we are saying if someone's total mark, okay, in this case, let's say the total mark for, let's take Okoth for example. Okoth's total mark is in cell what? Someone following, in which cell do we have Okoth's total mark? D2. So Okoth's total mark is in D2. So say if the value in D2 is between 100 to 80, then Okoth should be assigned which grade?
An A.
But if Okoth's total mark is between 79 and 60, then Okoth should be assigned a B. And the condition is true if Okoth's total mark, which is in D2, is between 59 to, then Okoth will get a C. And the last condition, if Okoth's total mark, I hope you know why I'm putting D2 here, because his total mark is in D2. If Okoth's total mark is between 49 to 0, then Okoth should get an F.
An F.
And we are saying this is what we call the if function. We use the if function to come up with if statements. So let's get onto the drawing board and we do this. We are going to start with Okoth, okay? We are saying to start any computation, we start with an equal sign.
Yes.
Okay? So to start my statements, I'll start with an equal sign. I'll say equals, the function you're using is what you're calling the if, okay? So I'll say if, you notice as soon as I type if, the suggestion pops up. The cell we are looking at is D2. D2. So I'll say if D2 is greater or equal to 80, comma, in the grade Okoth will get should be an A, comma. I move to the next statement. If, to the next condition, if D2 is greater or equal to, in this case, 60, then Okoth should be given a B, comma. If you notice we are considering the lower end of our scale. We are saying we started, if Okoth's grade is greater, let me use a different color here. If Okoth's grade is greater or equal to 80, then you'll get an A. Now, that statement caters for anything above 80. Are we together? Then if we say if Okoth is above 6, equal or above 60, that will cater for 60 and above. So we are using this lower end of the scale. Okay, so we come back here. If D2 is greater or equal to, in this case, we are saying 50, right? Comma, don't forget those commas. Okoth's grade will be a C. Then we come to the last condition. If Okoth's grade, which is D2, is greater or equal to 0. Now, in this case, we can write it that way, or we can say less than 49. But let's say that if Okoth's grade is greater or equal to 0, then Okoth will get an F. Okay. Now I'm done with my statements. I should close my function. To close this, the number of opening brackets we had are the number of closing brackets we should have. We had, this is the first closing bracket, opening. We have a second one here, 2, 3, 4. So we should have 4. So I'll say 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I have Okoth's grade. According to our conditions, Okoth had a 53, right? Should 53 be a C, according to our condition?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, to automatically generate this, I hope you remember the shortcut. Come to the corner, double click, and everyone will have their grade. As simple as that. Okay, Chamwak Abdallah, your arm is up. You can feel free to.
I wrote it down.
Oh, okay. Issa Vidi Emmanuel, your hand is up. Okay, it seems Mwesugwa, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Am I supposed to use both signs, as in greater than and equal signs at the same time?
Yes, let me take you back here. If you look at my statement properly here, you notice I say if, which is my function, then the syntax, if open bracket, the cell whose value we are trying to use to generate the grade. If the value there is greater or equal, so you use both together. You start with the greater than, then the equal. Let me, for those who have computers and you're trying this, let me try and capture a screenshot and share this in the group.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Though not, people should be very keen on this. We should be very keen on this. Your total mark might not be in D3. So ensure you're in the you use the right address. Your total mark would be in another cell. Are we together? Okay. Now, those of you having computers, you could try this. Those of you who don't, I believe some of you are already around. You could try and access the computer labs. Let me share this screenshot for those who have been trying out. I'm going to share it in a few. Okay. Or I could share it. Let me see if I can share it in the message area we are using here. Now it's very important. Yes, someone says, can I do that on my phone? You can. Using Google Sheets, you can. You just have to be very keen, and it's not as hard. Are we together? Okay. I want us to try. Okay, I think I'll give you this as a task. I'll give you this as a task. Yeah, I'll give you this as a task. Let's not do it here. Okay. So someone asked, how do I add a title? How do I add a title to my Excel sheet? We are going to see how we add a title. Victor asks, how do we give positions? Still using if statements. We can use if statements. We can even sort. Actually, we can sort. Okay. Let's try and sort. For example, Victor has asked, how do we give positions? If I want to know who is the best, etc. I can sort. For example, I can sort depending on the grades here. Are we together? I can come to the grade area, or I can even, let's use total mark. I can come to the total mark. Then on top here, there's an option to sort and filter. I click on sort and filter, and I'll say sort from the largest to the smallest. And I'll do that. Oh, sorry, let me first remove these and put them in another area such that they don't interfere with our sort. So let's try and sort. We want to sort our students depending on the highest to the lowest. So I want to sort them by the total mark. Then I choose sort from the largest to the smallest. Let's expand selection. And here you go. The one who got the highest mark is at the top. The one who got the least mark is at the bottom.
Please, sir, I'm not able to access your screen.
You're not seeing my screen? You could try leaving the meeting and you rejoin. The issue could be your connection, but the rest are saying that. Okay. Victor Nankwang, I hope you've seen how we sort from the highest to the lowest. And you can always use that to assign positions. Please, let's not forget to mute. Kamwak Abdallah, your hand is up again. Mariam Nachibude, your arm is up as well. You could pass your communication.
Sir,
Yes.
I'm Mariam.
Yes.
I please beg your pardon on how to sort and filter. I just stopped on seeing you highlighting.
Okay, let me redo that. So we want to know.
Thank you.
We want to see or arrange our students from the top performer to the least performer. The best way to do that is use the total mark column. Are we together? So I just come to the top. I just come to the top of my function, of my column. My total mark is in column D. So I come on top and click D. Okay. Then I'll move towards the end of my menu here. If you're seeing my cursor very well, towards the end of your Excel, there is there's a menu, one option that reads sort and filter. Do you see that? For those of you who have working computers. So I'll click on sort and filter, and I'll say sort largest to smallest, because I want the highest mark to the smallest. Once I do that, this menu will pop up. Microsoft Phone data next to your selection. Since you are not selected this data, it will not be sorted. What do you want to do? I want the rest of my data to be sorted depending on that particular column. So I'll choose and say expand the selection. In other words, all the data, all the records in my spreadsheet. Please, someone, let's mute. So I want to sort everything else depending on the total mark. I'll just go ahead and tap on sort. And you notice my students will be sorted from the one with the highest mark to the least mark. Are we together? Okay. Now let's try and Teddy, where are you lost? Teddy says she's lost. Where are you lost, Teddy? You can speak to us. Teddy says you didn't get it. Okay, we are saying I'm doing this again for those who are not gotten it. Select the column that you want to be your data to be. Select the column for which you want to be your sort to be aligned to. I want my data to be sorted depending on the total mark. So I select my total mark. I come to sort and filter. I'm sorting from largest to smallest. You can choose whichever. You can decide to sort from the smallest to the largest. But I'll sort from largest to smallest. Then the option, there's a dialog here that asks me, do I want to sort everything? Do I want to expand my selection and sort it all aligning or depending on the selected column? Yes, I'll select that and I'll say expand the selection. Then I click on sort and it will be sorted. Up here together. Okay, now let's try and format our sheet. Okay, we haven't added a title to this. How do I add? Let's say I want to add a column above this. I want to add a column or a row, which is going to act as my title, above my the columns that have my name, coursework, etc. I can always insert a column above this by right-clicking on the column. Okay, notice where my cursor is. I want to add a row above name. So I'll come and select the row for above which I want to add a row. Okay, in this case it's row number 1. I want to add another row above row number 1. Come to row number 1. Okay, Lutu, I'm going to get back to you. Lutu says he wants to know more about how we work with the average. I'm going to get back to that. Come to the row above which you want to insert, in this case row number 1. Right click there. Among my options, there is copy, there is cut. We talked about this. And as I move down, there's an option to insert. I'll click on insert. And I hope you see what has happened. A row has been added. I want to add my title here. Now to add my title, you notice this row is divided into cells, but we don't want our title to be broken into these different cells. So before we write anything, we are going to go ahead and merge all these into one long open space or one long cell. How do I do that? Use your cursor, select the cells that you want to join. Okay, start from the first, move your mouse, select all the cells you want to join. After selecting them, there's an option to merge. Okay, there's an option to merge, and it's right here. This is the option that I use to merge my cells. I just click there and everything is merged. The cells are removed and I can put my title. Let's say class grades calculator. Okay. In case there's a student, okay, in case there is a column I forgot to add and I want to add it, I can use the same technique. I come to the row before or after which I want to insert. I right click, then I say insert. The column will be added. Okay. Good thing this is recorded. This is recorded. So some of you who joined a little late, you'll be able to go through the recording. Maybe I'll Lutu said highlight more about the average. We say to get the average, we are going to use the average function. It makes it so easy. All we do is say equal sign, write the function average, it pops up. Then I select the units I want to add. In this case, if I want to get the average of my total marks, or let's say the average of the coursework right here. Okay, my courseworks are in cell. My courseworks range from B3 all the way to B9. Okay, how do I do that? To get the average of my coursework, I'll say average equal sign average. I select the average, then I say the units whose average I want to get are the courseworks. Okay, so my courseworks are in cell B3 all the way to B9. You notice what I've written here automatically shows that is the highlighted one. If I use the comma, let's see the difference if I use a comma, B3 comma B9. You notice the selection shows I'm only getting the average of what and what for someone who's watching.
Daniel and Moses.
Daniel and Moses. That's when I use a comma. I tried and explained this, that when we use a comma, we are adding individual units. But when we use the colons, we are selecting a range of units. I hope you can see once I use the colons, I've selected a range. And once I do that, I press enter and I have my average. That was for Lutu. Okay, we are trying to format our spreadsheet. Lutu, your hand is up again.
Yes, sir. Good morning, lecturer.
Good morning, please.
Sorry for taking you back. I wanted to know how you created that column where the heading is about class grades calculator.
Okay.
My network was on and off. Sorry for inconvenience.
But the class is recorded, though still I have no problem. I'll redo that. We are saying we are saying to insert a row or column, move to the identifier of your row. Let's say if I want to add a row above the row that has names, coursework, etc., I'll come to the beginning of my row or the identifier of my row, which is number 1. I right click there. Okay. Once you right click, among the options is an option to insert. My row will be added. But because we are adding a title, we have to remove these cells. Okay. I remove these cells by selecting all of them. After selecting all of them, I'll choose the merging option. The merging option is right here on top. Okay. I tap on merge and the space isn't there anymore. I mean, the cells are not there anymore. It's one long space. I can write my title and I can say class
Yes.
grade calculator. Now, someone
Yeah,
says,
thank you.
okay, just a minute. Okay, so that's how we can insert that. Now, someone says, suppose I have a title that is going to span like, I think this is Sam Ochene. Suppose I have a title that is going to span like 3 lines. How can I write in the different lines? Okay, now let's try and answer Sam. Now, Sam, assuming I have a title that is going to cover about 3 lines. First of all, I'm going to try and increase the size of my title. We call it the title row. In that case, we are not going to write we're not going to write direct here. We'll create the space. After creating the space, we move to the insert tab. Okay, we move to the insert tab. Under the insert tab, towards the end, there is the text option. In the text option, I want us to select text box. I'll come and draw my, we looked at text box in Microsoft Word. I'll come and draw my text box here, and I can write. Let's see what happens. Class, grade, calculator, later, let's say science, term 2. Okay, you notice the text box gives us room to have to write in different lines. Term 2, and I can go ahead and say by teacher. This is teacher. Teacher Ochen. And I can go ahead and even resize this. Now, don't forget we have these text options as well, the ones we had in Microsoft Word. And I can drag this, and I can resize it. Okay, I can always resize this. Yeah, it may be a little tedious, but that's how we can do it. You can use your text boxes. I can increase on the size here. I can adjust my text box here. And there we go. Lutu. Okay, let me start with Zarango. Zarango, your hand is up. Okay.
Okay, thank you, teacher.
Yes, please.
I hope I'm clear there.
Yes.
Okay, what I wanted to ask is, I wanted to, I did the heading up of class grade calculator before adding the total marks. So after doing the heading, I tried to add the total marks, but it said that it's it's like it wanted me. It said that all the boxes which I've merged, like they are going to be compressed. So I got puzzled there.
Oh yeah. Now you can always accept that. Then after you remerge your title again. Because what happens if you're like what's happening? You had already merged some of the rows, the columns on top, right? But now you're trying to add another row, yet you had already merged. So it will break them up again. Then after you can remerge them. Like you insert.
Then another thing I like.
Yes.
Then another thing I like to redo for me the issue of that table you've done, because I was trying to follow but I got offline.
Which table?
That one where the one for again the heading.
Oh, okay. But
Where
the
you
class
put the table one.
the class is recorded, by the way. You will be able to access. But let me redo that. Let me redo that. You may let me redo that. We said we are using a text box. Okay. First of all, we said you have to first create your. Okay, let me get back here. I'm just undoing everything. So we started by having a space where we want our title to be. Okay. After creating the space, we increased on the width of that space. We just drag down. Click on the intersection and drag down, don't release. So we have created a little bigger space. We want to have a title that is that can span several lines. So to have that title, we are saying we go to insert. The insert tab, at the end of the ribbon, we look for text, the option that reads text. We are going to choose the option that reads text box. We are going to come and draw our text box here. The way we drew shapes, okay, we worked with shapes in our last online meeting. We also work with text boxes, and here I can write freely as I was writing in Microsoft Word. I can say class grade calculator for science. Okay, and I can say compiled. To move to the next line, I just press enter. Compiled by teacher Joan. As simple as that. Okay. So we have let's try and oh, we are already moving past 2 hours. Okay, we are concluding. Now, how about if I want to add colors here? The same way we add colors in Microsoft Word is the same way we can add colors to our items here. For example, I can select this row. I come to my color options here. This is the font color. This is the fill color. We have two colors. If I want a fill color, I'll click on the arrow next to fill color, and I can access the colors available. Let's say I'll prefer that. I can also change my font using the font options there, and I can give my font a color of my choice. Okay. You can increase the font size, you can choose the alignment. There's a lot you can do here. Okay, there's a lot you can do here. Maybe in case I wanted to add a border, okay, in case I wanted to add borders to the areas that have my data, I can select, I can always select all the area that has my data, and I add borders from here. This is the border. These are the border options. Once I click on that, I can see different border options. I'll choose all borders, and the section that has my records will have borders. Okay. Okay. So we can add borders that way. These are some basic things we can always do. If you want to align, if you're working with currency, maybe let's do one example of currency. Let's just add a row of fees just to see how currency works here. I'm going to add a column of fees, and let's say this student paid let's say they paid 500,000. Okay. In case I want these units to be displayed as currency, let's say Uganda shillings, etc. There's an option for currency here where you see dollars. By default, it's dollars. I hope you can see that. Okay. But what if I don't want dollars? What if I want shillings to display instead of dollars? That's when I can move right here to this small menu here. I tap on it. Then under this, I can set the decimal places I want. In this case, I may not want any decimal places, so I remove them. Then where there is currency, I click on that arrow and I look for Uganda shillings. UGX, it should be somewhere. UGX is right here. And I say okay. And you notice, okay, I want to assign that to all these. Oh, sorry, let me go back and change my currency. I want this to be UGX. I'll look for UGX under my currency options. I'll remove the decimal options. Please, let's mute. Anara Tony, mute. Okay. I say okay. Now, if each units are entered, let's say this one paid 200. You notice my units automatically added in the right currency. That's how we add currencies. That's how we can add currencies automatically. Okay, we have already used about 2 hours and more. The class has been recorded. I beg that you take time and go through. It will be easier. If you can access a computer, get time and go through. There's a lot we can do with spreadsheets. Yes, Mwesigwa, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I would like to ask which year of Microsoft unit are you using?
Oh, yes. Now, this takes us back to user applications. Thank you. Now, user applications are usually produced or released in different versions. Okay. So at times the versions may differ a bit, but the operations are not so different. Now, what I'm using is Excel 9, Microsoft Office 19. But most of the operations we have been executing here can be done in any Microsoft Excel. They are the basic ones. Maybe what you may not see in the other ones, things like the draw. You may not see that menu if you're using an old version of Excel, let's say 2010, 2013. Okay, I'm using 2019. That's what I'm using on my end.
Thank you so much.
Okay, please. Are there any questions as we wind up? Okay, if there are no questions, okay, Miriam Nachigude, your hand is up. You can talk to us, Miriam. Yes, Miriam. Oh. Oh, we said to position, use the sorting function. Just select the, okay, the class is recorded. So you'll get time and go through. But we say to position, select the row which you want to sort your records according to. In this case, since we are looking at positioning students from the best to the least, we choose the column that has our total marks. We go to sort and filter. The option is right here. Sort and filter. We sort from the largest to the smallest. Then we say yes, expand selection. Go ahead and sort, and it will sort for us. Now, in most cases, Teddy says, how do I change data from Word to Excel? Now, that's a little, in most cases, these two are usually independent, but you can export a table. Okay, you can export. There's always an option to format as table. You can get that table, you export it. If you notice under the home, you can format this as a table. Then later you can either click that table, you drop it in Microsoft Word, or you can export it there direct. Odong Jerome, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. How do I make
Odong, you're on and off. Odong, you're on and off. Odong? Yes. How do you make a multiplication table? Now, to do multiplication, you use an equal sign. You get the cells you want to multiply, maybe 1. I can use the asterisk, this symbol here, to multiply. Maybe 1 times 2, and I love that. Maybe I want to multiply these cells. Let's say I want to multiply this cell right here. I add the multiplication sign, and that cell I've multiplied. If I want to use a function, we have what we call the product function. The product function. You can use the product function here, and you can choose what you want to multiply. Let's say this, comma, and that. And I can generate my table using the product functions. I just have to set my units. For example, I have 1, 2, 3, etc. And here I also have 1, maybe. Anyway, it depends on what I have. All I have to do is to use that function equals product. Okay, product. Then I choose the cells I want to multiply, and I just have to know that the tools I want to use. Okay, Ahindisa says, I need more clarification on how to separate the marks of different individuals, i.e. drawing lines. Are you saying how we put, I don't seem to get your question well, but I don't know if you're saying how we put these borders.
Adam, where are you studying from?
Mbisibo, I don't know, Ahindisa. How we add the borders. Okay, let me redo that. To add the borders, let me first remove the borders we have here. Okay, so I'll choose no border. So to add the borders, okay, select the area that to which you want to add the borders. For example, I want my borders to be added to this. I select using my mouse. My borders will always appear here. This is where I find my borders. I click on the arrow and I can see the different kinds of borders I can have. You may want a thick border. You may want depends on the border you want. So if I click all borders, the borders will be inserted on each and every cell. Now there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do. Under the insert, you can insert things like images. We talked about, I hope you remember the smart art we talked about in the previous, in Word. You can insert the smart arts, you can work with charts, you can even insert photos here. You can adjust the page layouts, the page colors, etc. Okay? So there's a lot you can do. I would just urge you, whenever you get access to a computer, you try and explore this. For now, I'd want us to end the class here. I would want us to end the class here. Okay. I volunteer to pray for us, then we close this. Oh, Anara told me, before someone prays, Anara told me was saying, how do I center a heading? Now to center, we have these alignment options here. You select the title, then you can align it either to the center, to the left, to the right, center or right. You use those options there as long as you have selected. Okay. Abel, your hand is up.
Thank you, David.
Yes, please.
My question is all about positioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want us to redo it?
Like giving positioning.
Yes, we were saying to.
Okay.
Pardon?
It's all about positioning using those keys on the keyboard.
I don't seem to get you.
Pardon?
I don't seem to get your questions.
How do you position those students using the keyboard?
Okay, now this is it. This is it. I've already I've assigned my students here. I've sorted my students here from the top to from the best to the least. Okay. Let me add a row here, a column here. Let me add a column here that we can use to have positions. So after sorting these guys, I know that the top, this is one at the top. I can assign him 1. This is position 2. This is position 3. Position 4, 5, 6, etc. We can always create a statement that can assign these automatically, but I think we can get to that in the coming classes. It's a little complex, but we can be able to do it. As long as I've sorted these by the mark, then I can go ahead and assign individually like that. And I can name this positions. Okay. Always don't forget to save your work. Don't forget to save your work. You can always use this icon here, or you go to File, Save As, Browse, you give it a name. Okay. You give it a name and you click Save. Okay. Winil Isaac, your hand is up.
Thank you, sir.
Mm.
I was just of an inquiry of how can I now print out a single individual in the form of a report card.
Now, how can I generate a report from this? That's a little advanced. That's a little advanced for the coverage. Let me see if we can get time to try and get into that. But it's possible. It's possible we can generate a report card, though for this particular, for our coverage, it's not part of what we are to cover. But if we get time, in case we have time, you notice we usually have very less time. If we get time, I'll try and get a session where we go through that as well. Okay. Yes, Mwesigwa.
Thank you so much, sir. What is the difference between save and save as?
Now, save. If I'm the first time I save a document, it will prompt me to put the name. It will prompt me to put the location, etc. So in most cases, if I'd saved already, and I don't want to change, let's say the name, the location, etc., that's when I just save, because I saved initially. But if I want, let's say I saved this as Excel funds class, but I want to change the name to something else. Let's say I want to add something. That's when I can save as, and I change the previous credentials. I can go save as, I can change the location, I can change the name, etc. So saving as is like you're changing is actually changing the previous credentials of the file. You're saving another copy of the file. It could even be in a different location, different names, etc. That's when we choose save as. If you had saved initially and you want to make some changes to the names, the location, etc. I hope that's clear.
Yeah, it is very clear.
Okay, for now, let's end this class here. Get time and go through the recordings. We'll be waiting for the communication from the administration as to know how we'll be meeting for our next meetings. Otherwise, let me wish you a good day.